Well, y'all, I'm pretty sure that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States over the DOJ, just took the little trust puppy that all the gun owners and all the gun organizations had, and it was kind of dwindling on its last leg, tied it to a tree, and then kicked it. Because we're about to walk through a whole lot of outrage, and for the people who are not familiar with what's going on, this video is dedicated directly to you guys. I'm going to show you why this is so important and why bringing more people into the fold of the Second Amendment and the gun world and the overall embracing of their rights is so crucial. I'm going to walk you through the entire thing right now. I need to hear you in the comments. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, and send this out because no one else is going to do what we're about to attempt to do. And let me know if I land this plane. All right, let's get into this. You guys can, of course, follow me on X at Braden LOA, but let me give you a little bit of a primer here. Right now, you have a whole lot of people who are really upset in the two-way space in the gun world. And I'm going to make this video, again, to the people who are fully embracing their rights, who fully believe that they have the right to keep and bear arms, the people who absolutely believe that right is essential, but are not as familiar with what we're talking about. There's been a lot of people who are going to bang the drum on the deep details on this. I'm going to try to tie it all together for y'all. So what just happened last night was Pam Bondi came out, and she's the Attorney General of the United States, and she released something that backed up the documentation and the support of the National Firearms Act. Okay, the people in the gun world, I'm going to get to your point here in a second. I'm going to bring you all into it, but I'm the newbies here. You have to understand this. The National Firearms Act is a collection of laws where they effectively took away gun rights, certain types of guns, from an entire population based on the ability to tax it, okay? So they said, hey, we're the federal government. We don't want gangsters in the Prohibition era to have these things. Suppressors, short-barreled anythings, and anything destructive in machine guns, okay? That's what they decided to do. And that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is how they did it. They decided that they couldn't infringe upon the Second Amendment rights of the entire United States because it would be unconstitutional. Well, yep, no doy. But then they decided to do it using taxes and commerce because they have the right to tax, but they don't have the right to infringe upon the Second Amendment. So if they put a tax and a fee on the Second Amendment items, then all of a sudden you have the ability to curtail gun ownership in the United States through taxes. And that's what they did. And that's why this whole hullabaloo has been struggling for 90 to 100 years, and that's the outrage where it's coming from. That's what's stemming. That's the background. For a good understanding of this, think about your right to vote, or your right of free speech, or your right to protect yourself from warrantless search and seizure, all of that being put behind a fee or a license or a financial structure. Right? If Congress came in and said, hey, individual, human, you can't have that right to vote because after all, you do need to have gas to get to the polling place. And since we tax gas, we're going to have to prevent you from voting if you live in this district or if you're this person or if you're this demographic. It's basically curtailing a right that's in the Bill of Rights through the power of taxation. That's the crux of the issue here, okay? A lot of people will make it about machine guns, they'll make it about suppressors, or they'll make it about short-barreled shotguns, short-barreled rifles, any of the item. That is the what. The why is the most important part, and that's why I'm trying to do this video for you guys who are not as fully deep into this as the two-way space is, okay? When you're looking at this ability of usurpation of rights through taxation, it opens the door for them to take anything because they have the power of tax. Okay, that is the big issue, and that's why we're going to get into it right now. So Pam Bondi came out and defended that entire scheme. That's why the two-way space is so pissed off right now. Rich Barris from the People's Pundit. Again, this is an important piece to this. Okay. Trump ran into the Second Amendment faction of the base in his first term. We did an entire analysis of the impact in battleground districts. This is the point. When you go and step on the souls of an entire faction of your base, and it doesn't have to be the 2A base, and it doesn't have to be the abortion base, it doesn't have to be the America First base, insert base here. But when you are in a battleground district and you have this much room of margin, and you come in and you kick one of those groups right in the gonads on something that's incredibly important to them, you're going to lose the support or the momentum or the energy or the ability to motivate that vote to vote for you. And there's nothing that I can do to change that. If you kick them right in the feel goods, you're going to have bad feels. And that's what you're dealing with right now. This is a very important piece to this because this is going to translate directly to elections, whether you are pissing off one or the other. When you go after core tenets of an entire organization that is built around the right to keep and bear arms and protecting that right, you're going to lose that base. And that base is a massive election turning base. That's why this is so important. He might not honestly know about this, maybe I'm wrong, but Bondi is a constant headache for him. He's talking about Pam Bondi. And in a moment of full transparency, I believe that is a tremendously accurate statement because there's been a whole lot of issues with AG Pam Bondi where she has caused a lot of headaches. From the Epstein saga in the beginning, I fully lay that at her feet at the beginning, and now at the NFA defense and the gun control that they're constantly putting out from the DOJ, which does rhyme with Biden-era DOJ actions, right? If you are the solution to the problem, don't be that same problem, okay? Let's keep on going, and this is why I'm doing the video in this style, because I really wanted to figure out exactly the angle I wanted to take on this, and here it is. DG, and if you're watching this, DG, you inspired a video. I wish someone would explain what it means and why it's a betrayal. I'm doing that right now. All right. So here's where it starts to fall apart. And this is the important piece to this. You guys have to understand the broader implications. Again, this is not about suppressors, machine guns, full autos, short barrel, anything. This is about the impetus to take away rights from people. Okay? Look, the quartering. Pam Bondi has been a runaway train of disappointment. She just made the argument for banning every handgun in America. And this is where it gets really important. Again, for you guys who are not in the 2A space, who are not deep in it, this is why it's important. Seeking to curtail armed crime, the National Firearms Act targeted particularly dangerous and easily concealable weapons that could be used readily and efficiently by criminals. This is referring to individual items inside the National Firearms Act. Now, you can easily take a different angle on this and say, oh, well, Pam Bondi came in, and since I'm a Democrat and I'm in the next administration that came along that has a anti-gun bent and a gun-controlling bent, you can see that Pam Bondi, underneath the Trump administration, the MAGA administration, they also agree that the NFA is concerned about items that are specifically readily and efficiently used by criminals and easily concealable. Here's the point. That describes handguns. That describes what every single person who's not deep in the 2A space is all about. That is the very tiptoe, the very entering the toe in the water moment, the handgun for protection. That's what happened over the last 4 to 5 years. Innumerable amounts of handguns were purchased because of the upheaval that we saw in our nation, the uncertainty. And when you have that level of uncertainty and that level of gun buying at specifically handgun entry-level position guns, this right here can be used by a Gavin Newsom to completely and totally frame all those people as easily concealable, and it's a dangerous item. That's the point. It's all in the language. And again, I'm trying to break this down for people who are not as deep in the 2A space. I'm from the 2A space. I fully have my roots in the 2A space, so we deal with this all the time over here. But when you're tying these things, the broad politic, the overall different factions, the Trump administration, the 2A space, you have to tie it all together, which is what I'm attempting to do for you guys. This is how we get new blood into the movement. This is how we get everyone on the same page so we don't end up being separated and divided. Okay? Guns of liberty. This is the entire effing point of the Second Amendment. And what he's referring to here is a Gun Owners of America post. And look at this. The NFA, this is in the same argument. The NFA regulates weapons that are primarily weapons of war. Okay, well, I'd be hard-pressed for you to find any type of firearm that is not a weapon of war. Because that is the language that the gun control factions use. They use it against AR-15s, they use it against shotguns, they use it against pistols. I mean, they use it against everything. Primarily weapons of war are left-wing talking points for gun control, and that is being used in a defense of the National Firearms Act from the Attorney General in the DOJ. That is the anger. That is the concern, because it undermines all the efforts that the Gun Owners of America organization, NRA, SAF, ASA, all of them, NAGR, they've all been fighting this for decades now. But that's why, because you now have the Trump administration coming in and using the same language that lefties use and then setting up a precedent which is extremely bad for broad-based Americans who are not as in the weeds as this. That's the whole point. And then you've got to bring those people in and say, look at how bad this is, while still explaining why it's important to them. That's the whole thing. That's the crux. That's why the dance is happening right now. All right, now this one right here. This is interesting because this is another faction inside the two-way space. And I'm just going to bring it in real quick. I think this is an important one. Costas Moro says, I disagree that it's a legally insane take. Sadly, the Commerce Clause has been distorted beyond all recognition in the last century, so this is par for the course. It should be an insane take, but it isn't. It may be true that we could do well with a favorable judge, though. Now, this is the interesting part right here. I also am a bit perplexed by the ongoing surprise at the DOJ defending the NFA. This is the point. And I think this is a good way to wrap this. It would be a shock to me if it should happen, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it shouldn't, but it would be a shock to me if the DOJ came out and said we are going to rip every single gun law out of the books simply because they have a desired outcome to preserve their own power, right? It's how do I say that? It's big government overreach 101. It's just like the filibuster, right? One person doesn't want to get rid of it on this side because the other person doesn't want to get rid of it on that side because one party is in the time of opportunity. You don't want to get rid of a tool that you can use at some point for some purpose, which is why they keep all these laws on the books, is because you never know when you're going to need to rip that one off the shelf for a situation. If you take the tools away from them, they don't like that. That's the point. So am I shocked that the DOJ came out and said, well, we're going to have to defend the National Firearms Act? No, I'm not shocked by it at all. Am I appalled at it? Yes, I'm absolutely appalled. Is it a disgusting attempt to curtail the rights of American citizens utilizing the tax powers of Congress outside the confines of that power given to Congress? Absolutely it is. But am I surprised? No. Am I annoyed? Yeah. Am I concerned for the implications that this is going to cause at the overall movement, which is going to further enable gun controllers to seize more power? Absolutely. But that's why I'm doing this video in the style that I did. So, listen, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I hope I landed this plane. I cannot wait to hear the feedback. Good, pro, bad, negative, whatever. Landed the plane. And I'll see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.